and then it stayed there for a while, and then it disappeared into the distance. Hi, I'm Bob Lazar.
We're taking over this conversation now. Nanu.
Welcome to Earth.
To third planet. It's a couple.
An ordinary man in an ordinary street in America. But this man started the 1947 wave of sightings that swept the world when he claimed to have seen from his mountain rescue plane 9 disc-like objects, roughly 45 miles away, flying at a speed of approximately 1,500 miles per hour near Mount Rainier, Oregon. The date? June 24, 1947.
At this point is when I would say approximately is where I had this terrific flash hit the air. My aircraft lit up the inside of my aircraft, and I assumed, of course, at the time in a split second that it was probably a P-51 fighter that had dove over my nose, and that it was the sun's reflecting upon his bright wing surfaces that caused it. However, before I gathered my wits together, I looked way off here to the north, and then when I saw where the flash came from, it was an echelon formation of a very peculiar-looking aircraft, and the second craft from the rear had a more or less crescent-shaped look, and it had a hole in the center of it. And of course I kept mulling in my mind, that's the damnedest looking airplane I ever saw.
The greatest surprise was when Arnold reported his sighting to the nearest U.S. military airbase. He found on the wall of the commander's office this classified gun sight photograph, which bore a remarkable resemblance to what Arnold claimed he had just seen.
Well, I tell you, they flew erratically like a saucer would if you skipped it across the water. And of course then, all of a sudden, the term flying disc and this type of thing, or crescent-shaped or whatnot, was completely dropped, and everybody started seeing flying saucers. And they've been seeing them ever since.
The next day, reporters heard that the Air Force had found fragments of the mystery object crashed on a remote ranch northwest of Roswell. Excitement ran high until officials announced it was only a weather balloon. Major Jesse Marcel, in charge of the operation, now tells a far different story.
They took pictures, of course. They had a whole flock of microphones there. They wanted they wanted some comments from me, but I wasn't at liberty to do that. So all I could do is keep my mouth shut. And General Ramey is the one who discussed or told the newspapers, the newsmen, what it was and to forget about it. It was nothing more than a weather observation balloon, of course, which we both knew differently.
Major Marcel had to keep silent because of his strategic position at that time. He was in charge of all security and intelligence on atomic tests in the United States and the Pacific. Marcel retraced his secret recovery operation across the hot New Mexico desert. The crash site was so remote, it took an entire day to drive there.
The following morning, we went out to the site where the crash was. And what I saw, I couldn't believe there was so much of it. It was scattered over such a vast area. So we proceeded to pick up as much of the debris as we could, loaded in a wagon. We filled that up. It took us a good part of the day to do that. So we proceeded to pick up the parts. A lot of it had a lot of little members with symbols that, to me, I call them hieroglyphics because I could not interpret them, could not be read. They were just like symbols of something that meant something. We found a piece of metal about a 1.5 to 2 feet wide and about 2 or 3 feet long. Felt like you had nothing in your hands. It wasn't any thicker than the foil out of a pack of cigarettes. But the thing about that got me is that you couldn't even bend it, you couldn't dead it. Even with a sledgehammer would bounce off of it. So I knew that I had never seen anything like that before. And as of now, I don't know what it was.
What did crash in this desert? A UFO? A weather balloon? A radar reflecting kite?
It was not anything from this earth that I'm quite sure of. Because being an intelligence officer, I was familiar with just about all materials used in aircraft and our air travel. This is nothing like that. It could not be. It could not have been.
Betty, that is not a star, it's a satellite. Come on, Dulcie, let's get up. Hurry up, Betty, so I can see. It's not a satellite, it's a plane.
Bonnie, what kind of a plane is that?
What kind of plane was it?
I, Barney Hill, and my wife, Betty, were driving home one night when we sighted something unusual in the sky. I got out of the car and with a pair of binoculars saw through the windows in the disc-shaped object several human-type figures.
He's friendly, but the other one with the evil face, he looks like a Nazi.
I ran back to the car, and in a state of near panic, we sped down the road toward home. Then we heard a series of beeps, and both of us felt a tingling sensation. The next thing either of us clearly remembered was again driving the car toward home, but it was 2 hours later, and we were 35 miles further down the road. After months of nightmares and mental distress, we sought medical assistance from a distinguished psychiatrist. Under time regression by hypnosis, both Betty and I independently gave almost identical accounts of a meeting with intelligent humanoid beings who halted our car, took us aboard their spacecraft, examined us physically, and released us unharmed.
Where are you on the map? And I looked, I laughed and I said, I don't know. And he said, if you don't know where you are, there isn't any point of my telling where I am from.
Neither Betty nor I can prove that this happened. And as a matter of fact, we really hope that it didn't. But nobody, even the technical people with whom we talked, have been able to positively refute our almost incredible story. Signed, Barney Hill. Will the real Barney Hill please stand up? Thank you, sir. Glad they let you back to us safe and sound. That's important, too.
Did the headaches and things go away? All of his bad...
Actually, there weren't headaches. There was distress. I developed an ulcer, and Betty had a series of dreams that lasted for about 5 days.
That's all gone now.
Yes.
Thank
goodness.
Good.
Like, holy crap, look! And it was a perfect triangle just floating across the sky.
I think it was a spaceship of some sort. Because, I mean, I've never seen anything like that before.
You couldn't even hear the wind. It was so quiet. It was just...
Yeah.
It just didn't even do anything. It just came through.
According to reports, the sightings began at about 8:20 just north of Prescott, with the lights then moving rapidly from Prescott to Glendale to Tempe to Chino Valley, and finally arriving in Tucson at about 9 o'clock. The lights traveled close to 200 miles in about 40 minutes. Even a commercial airline pilot here at Sky Harbor Airport reported seeing the lights last night. He radioed the tower just after takeoff, telling them that the object was directly above him. That means that air traffic controllers in the tower should have picked the object up on their radar screens. And yet they say they saw nothing.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Don't get him too close to me, please.
In the alien costume, the governor's chief of staff.
Now, this just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
UFO enthusiasts were not amused, especially since the governor was believed to have seen nothing. But now he's coming out.
March 13th, 1997.
This event called Lights Over Phoenix. What did you see?
Well, I saw a huge craft just kind of come right over Squaw Peak. That was, it was just breathtaking.
Hey, Sue, take a look at this.
Oh my God!
Unquestionably, it was a UFO, which means unidentified flying object.
Doesn't mean we're being visited.
Well, it's nothing like anything I've ever seen.
And you're an Air Force guy.
Yeah, and a pilot.
There were so many people who saw it, and the stories are so consistent over such a widespread area.
All of a sudden, I caught the image of what it was. I could see its outline. It was almost the same exact color of the sky, but because it was passing over stars, the stars were being blocked out and then come back after it passed. And it looked like an actual, very geometric Carpenter square. Listen, it was freaking huge. It was going really slow. It had these big lights in it. It didn't make a sound. That's the point. It was there. We saw it. There's no doubt in our minds whatsoever what we saw.
It's either military, it's a hoax, or it's unknown.
Former Phoenix City Councilwoman Frances Emma Barwood is the only city official to look for answers, and she has paid a price for it. When Barwood proposed to her colleagues that they at least ask some questions, she was met with a stony, chilling silence.
Kind of curious, especially since people are starting to ask more questions. Thank you. Councilman Siebert. After the meeting was over, one of the deputy city managers came over to me and said, "You shouldn't have asked that question." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, you just opened Pandora's box. They didn't want to deal with it."
The Air Force told UPN News 13 it no longer investigates UFOs since Project Blue Book was closed in 1969. Barwood sent letters to senators looking for answers and was told the same thing.
They do not do investigations on UFOs. Now, what is interesting to me is in these days of terrorism, we don't have anybody investigating anything that invades our airspace.
Texas is known for its colorful past and larger-than-life stories. In today's Welcome to Texas, Karen Borda delves into one of our area's more unusual legends that really is out of this world.
Buried in a quiet, historic cemetery in the tiny Wise County town of Aurora lies a mystery almost 120 years old.
There's lots of people that want the story to go away. They've really quashed it for years and years.
According to local legend and a Texas historical marker, this is the burial site of an alien whose aircraft crashed into a windmill on April 17, 1897. City Administrator Tony Wheeler's family has lived in Aurora for generations. Her great-grandparents were there to help pass down the story.
Townspeople went rushing up to the site and they found debris scattered everywhere and a very charred alien body, which we've named Ned, and we believe Ned's resting place is right behind us here under this tree in the cemetery.
2 days later, it made the front page of the Dallas Morning News. But Wheeler says it's not something that many of the townspeople wanted shared.
A lot of it is people trying to suppress the story. You're in a very heavily influenced Bible community. If you can't explain it, they don't want anything to do with it.
What did they find? Based on eyewitness accounts, investigator Hayden Hughes managed to create these composites of the ship's dead pilot. Most of the smashed ship was carted off as souvenirs, and at least one metal chunk was buried with the pilot. But a few pieces were tossed down a well near the crash. That might account for the grotesque ailment suffered by Bonnie Oates' husband, Brawley, who later died.
And what did he blame that on?
Radiation that got into the well water where the crash occurred in 1897.
Scientists have found debris scattered in the trees and rocks up there. So we don't know exactly what happened, but to say something didn't happen is probably pretty naive.
A lot of people have wanted to dig up the remains, but Texas law says they can't.
You have to notify the next of kin before you exhume a body. So obviously, I've never met another alien that I'm aware of. So it'd be kind of hard to find a descendant of Ned.
2 headstones marking Ned's grave have been stolen over the years, and some say the body was secretly moved. But whatever the story, Wheeler just wants it to be told.
We predate Roswell by 50 years. Why not, do something with this as part of our history? You can't just erase history.
You have to embrace it, the good and the bad.
And in doing so, put Aurora back on the map again.
April 19, 1897, in Leroy, Kansas. A farmer named Alexander Hamilton, his son, and a farmhand are awakened by strange noises from the cattle pen. Going outside, they discovered, to Hamilton's utter amazement, an enormous airship with a brilliant searchlight is slowly descending over the cow lot. Fearfully, Hamilton moves closer and is startled to find that one of his cows has been caught by a red cable running down from the ship. The next day, after an extensive search, he discovers the cow's hide, legs, and head in a field miles away. This is one of the first recorded cattle mutilations connected with UFOs. The report could easily be dismissed as a tall tale if there were no others. But since then, thousands of bizarre animal mutilations have been discovered, not only in this country, but in Africa, Australia, Brazil, and many European countries, in fact, all over the world.
And now to a bizarre mystery gaining attention on a national level. Cows found mutilated, some of them cut with precision and their bodies seemingly untouched with no bloodshed.
Investigators say the cow's remains weren't even scavenged by other animals. An expert we spoke to says that's just unusual. A 6-year-old longhorn cross cow found mutilated, an apparent clean cut removing the hide around the cow's mouth, only on one side.
Sheriff's departments in Madison, Brazos, and Robertson counties are trying to solve a mystery. 6 cows were found dead and mutilated along Texas Highway OSR. They were all lying on one side with their tongues removed. The cause of death unknown. Now, similar incidents have been reported across the country.
So what or who is the villain of this story? Brian Moss owns a couple of ranches in the Madisonville area. He's also the owner of AAAC Wildlife Removal. He mentions these strange clues. The grass wasn't disturbed, there's no blood spill, and no noticeable tracks.
For everything to be undisturbed, the grass around it, no bloodshed, that's not a pack of coyotes. It's not a wild animal that's done that at all.
Another clue, the precision of the cuts.
They're not precision hunters. They're very aggressive, and they want to get the most they can as quickly as they can.
Could it be non-human, say an extraterrestrial being?
Stranger things have happened.
What would happen if somebody with no technical expertise in the topic went out and tried to cut a cow?
It'd be an absolute disaster. For one, there'd be blood all over the ground.
What was the first thing that went through your head when you saw them?
Aliens.
Moo. Moo, moo, moo.
South Park to us was always the place where you would talk about there were UFO sightings, and just because it was just this weird place.
All the stories would come where like, oh, did you hear they found another UFO? There's been all these cattle mutilations, and it's like, where? South Park.
What exactly could you see?
When I put the binoculars up and looked in there, there was a green cone-shaped craft back there. It was green and looked solid, and it had there was a door on it with a platform coming out onto the side of the hill. And then the lizard-type creature, he was standing next to the cone-shaped ship. I told Paula, I said, look, Paula, there's something back there. Look at this. Look at this. And she took the binoculars and looked through them.
I took them and I looked. It had big green eyes. And it looked like leaves on it, or like it was camouflaged. And I'm looking at it, and then it looked at me with its big eyes. And my heart just stopped beating and I couldn't breathe. And I just said, it's staring right back at me. And I saw this big black cow laying down with its mouth. And I said, my God, they got a cow. But what are they doing to it? And it was just laying there. And it had its eyes open and its tongue was like hanging out a little bit, not real bad. But it just laid there and didn't move. And they just were running their fingers over it like that, and running them down it and looking at their fingers.
Now, these are two little
silver beings, and their heads, it didn't look like there was no helmet on. So, because I thought, I wonder if they can breathe our air, so you would think like an astronaut helmet or something. I didn't see nothing like that, but they had these little packs on their back. And then there was one being on one side and one on the other, and they just reached over to it and were like fingering through its hair on its neck. Cause like, see, there's its neck,
the head, and they were just doing like that, and then looking at your fingers. Then the next thing is they had their hands over it, and there was a black ramp, and they just went like this, and the cow just went up, and it just floated right up the ramp into a hill.
Which was the ship. And Paula got me real nervous.
I got scared.
She got real scared because she said, hey, if they're doing that to animals, what can they, what's next? Here we are a family. They can come over here and do as they will please if they're doing,
Out in the boondocks. We told everyone, said, oh man, we saw these aliens out there with this cow. They said, oh, sure you did. Nobody could find nothing.
Like we were crazy.
So later on I said, oh, how's everything going with your cows over there? And he said, yeah, we're missing a cow. I said, oh, really? Is it a black cow? They said, yeah.
She has regular contact with extraterrestrials, and her outrageous accounts have passed every scientific test. Doug Bruckner has the story of her alien encounters.
Watch very closely, because if this video is what it's purported to be, you're looking at an alien in a spaceship.
You can clearly see figures in the window, and they turn their heads.
Already studied and authenticated by some photo experts, it's just one of thousands of dazzling images from what's been hailed as the greatest UFO story ever told. It's an extraterrestrial mystery that's confounded everyone, from psychiatrists to scientists and respected UFO investigators. Just as remarkable as the pictures themselves, the woman who took them.
Professors, doctors, lawyers, anything you can think of, they were coming to do different tests on me.
Her name is Dorothy Izat, the world's most unlikely UFO contactee, a 75-year-old great-grandmother who says she's been communicating with visitors from other worlds for 25 years.
I've asked them to come closer, and they'll move closer. And I'll ask them if I can film them, if they give me permission to film them.
These pictures are the result, showing everything from alien beings to spaceships to masses of glowing orbs in the sky and inexplicable flashes of light. All contained on more than 350 reels of film this spry granny shot with her little Super 8 camera from the balcony of her Vancouver apartment. She remembers when it first happened, on an otherwise ordinary afternoon back in 1974.
I looked up in the sky, and here was this enormous craft that looks like a huge like diamond-shaped thing up in the sky.
This is without a doubt the most remarkable piece of footage she shot.
Was where the aliens showed up.
It's an image that appeared during one of Dorothy's routine sky watches just recently.
And then I noticed that in the window were a couple of aliens in the window. So I said, oh dear, I can't see the lights so bright. I said, I need to film you. I said, can you turn the lights off the ship? And I can film you. And they did. The lights go off. The aliens are there.
And believe it or not, like all of Dorothy's footage, this has been scientifically tested and declared genuine, or at least not faked.
What Dorothy has done is she's bridged the gulf between the two.
Meanwhile, Dorothy simply calls her ET friends life beings, who she says come from diverse parts of the universe to impart a simple message to mankind.
No one wants to listen to it because it's so simple and it's so easy. It's L-O-V-E, just love.
Dr. J. Allen Hynek was a respected astronomer and physicist, world-renowned, when he was hired by the U.S. Air Force to serve as consultant to Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book was an attempt by the Air Force to investigate UFOs. When Dr. Hynek investigated Dorothy Izat, he came away convinced that she was genuine, that her films were genuine.
And on the advice of Professor Hynek, he said, you be very careful, the people you deal with. Most of all, he said, keep away from the lunatic fringe. He said, because don't forget, he said, you'll be tied with the same brush. He said, gather all the information you can till you have enough and you're ready, then you go out, he said, let people know what you have. But you have to have all the proof, you have to have everything there ready for anyone that wants to tear you down. And I took his advice and disappeared like God. That's why a lot of people say, oh, didn't hear from me, didn't see me. It's because I took his advice and stayed away.
Dr. J. Allen Hynek, chairman of the Department of Astronomy, a UFO investigator for the Air Force for the past 18 years. A sighting has been reported northwest of Chicago on April 15th at 7:30 in the evening.
Yeah, I was very influenced by J. Allen Hynek because he was not looking at UFOs as science fiction, but he was looking at them as science speculation.
And he was employed by the government for Project Blue Book for 20 years, investigating all of these UFO things that were so big in the 50s.
In a nutshell, Hynek was a disbeliever who became a believer.
He found the witness reports very credible, and he found so many similarities from so many portions of America as well as throughout the world that he became a convert to the fact that the government was hiding something and something was afoot.
At the end of it, the government disbanded Project Blue Book and said no evidence of any kind, of any sort. And Dr. Hynek said, who was very much a skeptic and wanted to be a disbeliever because that was the scientific approach, Dr. Hynek said they had several hundred cases of absolutely unexplained UFOs. He didn't say what they were, he wasn't saying they were from outer space, but he said we came across stuff, there was no possible way of debunking some of these things. It was unexplainable.
So I met with him and I used him and I picked his brain and he consulted with me. He's even in the movie in a snippet of a scene in the third act. And I owe a lot to his instilling in me a professional's point of view on this kind of field reporting. And he helped me make the movie more credible than it would have been without his existence.
The term Close Encounter of the Third Kind is taken from Dr. Alan J. Hynek's book. He's who created the term Close Encounters.
Well, a close encounter of the first kind is one is close, but nothing really happened.
Close encounter of the first kind is visible contact with a UFO.
Forget the shape and forget how fast it's going. It's something that you just can't explain.
Close encounters of the second kind are those which leave a physical trace. Holes in the ground,
Burn rings,
broken tree branches,
telephone lines down,
animals disturbed,
the stopping of car engines.
And the close encounters of the third kind are the most interesting of all.
Close encounter of the third kind is really when you meet them.
Looks like you got an object right in front of you, Mark. Can you look out there? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Never mind.
Hundreds of people today phoned the ZBC saying they sighted an unidentified flying object.
It was a bright, radiant light. I've never seen anything like it in my life. It was the absence of noise I didn't like.
People from all over Zimbabwe were phoning the BBC to say, we've seen something weird.
There were three of us that saw it. Myself, the co-pilot, and the pilot in the other aircraft.
No winds, no nothing. Shiny oval thing. Could you tell me what you saw on Friday?
The silver thing in amongst this clump of trees.
We saw this black figure running. His face was like this and his eyes were down here. I just thought it was some kind of alien from a different planet.
When you looked at those children, they were absolutely credible. And whereabouts was it?
In the trees over there.
There was a big group of kids pointing and making a noise and shouting and screaming.
The panic spread. Am I safe or am I not safe?
He's a Harvard psychiatrist.
Meet Dr. John Mack, a believer in aliens from outer space.
We came away convinced that an extraordinary event occurred here.
I think they want people to know that we're actually making harm on this world.
How did that get communicated to you?
It came through my head.
Somehow there was a message about pollution from the way he was staring?
Yes.
No, I was just a hard-ass journalist. I could handle war zones, but I could not handle this UFO thing.
I mean, I never felt this could derail my career.
The dean wanted to know, what is he doing?
John is lost at this time.
They were very slim, the suit was black, but it was the eyes that was frightening.
A large number of children, all with the same apparent story.
Why would 62 children lie?
Celebrated Harvard professor John Mack interviewed the young eyewitnesses.
Well, I was playing in the playground, and then we saw something silver. We saw a man standing next to it.
And what did he look like?
Well, he had big eyes that pointed. And I couldn't see his nose and his mouth, but his nose was pretty small.
So the eyes were large, is that right?
Yes. My heart kind of went faster and then slower and then faster and then slower. I saw something strange and something peculiar and something nobody had ever seen.
What scared you?
The noise.
What noise?
The noise that we heard in the air.
You heard a noise in the air? What was it like? Like a roar or a buzz or a hum, or what kind of a noise?
It was like someone was blowing a flute.
And that scared you?
Yes. I saw one over here, and I saw one of these men by the spaceship. He ran normally like us, but bouncy, as if a human would run on the moon.
These eyes, did you look at them?
Yes.
What feeling did that give you when you looked in the eyes?
It was making me all scared. My heart was now starting to pump faster, and it was making me all woozy now.
But you kept looking.
Yes.
Why did you keep looking?
I don't know, something just attracted me to look at it.
Something attracted you, huh?
Yes. The other man, his eyes looked at me as if, I want to, and things like that.
I want to what?
I want you.
I want you.
Yeah.
I want you in what? Like, I want you to come with me, or
I want you to come with me. I want you to come.
Did you go with him, do you think?
No, only my eyes went with him.
Your eyes went with
And
him.
my feeling.
So was there a part of you that wanted to go with him?
Yeah. And a little I shouldn't go.
Yeah. And yet, I want to go.
Yeah.
Staring at you as if what? As if to do what?
As if I wanted to come and take us. Well, he never said anything. It's just that the face is the eyes.
Fungi, what do you imagine is his reason for visiting Earth?
I think it's about something that's going to happen.
Something that's going to happen.
Yes.
Like what?
There's pollution or something.
Pollution?
Yes.
And how did he get that idea of pollution across to you?
The way he was staring.
The way he was staring?
Yes.
Somehow there was a message about pollution from the way he was staring?
Yes. I think they want people to know that we're actually making harm on this world and we mustn't get too technologized.
How did that get communicated to you?
I don't know.
But somehow it did, is that what?
It came through my head.
You were saying that you thought that they maybe were trying to tell us something, like about the future. Can you say more what your thought is, or what was it like?
It was like in the world, all the trees will just go down and there will be no air and people will be dying. I think that in space there's no love, and down here there is.
There is love.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything we can do with that love as far as taking care of the earth? You had talked about that the message that we don't take care of the earth.
No. Where the spaceship had landed, all the insects and ants and stuff like that were all dead, and there was a huge black mark there.
Who was scared? Not all of you, huh? Who was dreaming about it since then?
Yes.
In a bad way?
Bad way.
Yeah, in a bad way? No, tell me first in a bad way. Why? You have nightmares about it?
Yes, I used to, but then after about a year, I stopped dreaming about it.
Mm-hmm.
I dreamt that the same one I saw without hair, he came into my bedroom and he took me from my bed.
Did you dream that?
Yes.
Yeah?
And then I just screamed. I woke up and screamed.
And what did your mom say?
Well, she just kept on saying it was a nightmare. She didn't really believe me.
Yeah?
I think they came here to try and warn us that the children because we're young. We've got a long time till we die. To warn us that when we're older, there's something going to happen to the earth.
Yeah, not to pollute. Because we're young, we can still prevent it.
Yeah.
Do you feel, as a child, privileged? Or do you think, next time if the UFO is coming, please go to another school?
No, I feel privileged.
You feel privileged that you saw it?
I'd love them to come back and you could see them again. But only this time closer.
I remember being very captivated by the eyes, and in that moment, however long it was, because I have no idea of the time frame, it was mesmerizing. It was absolutely captivating.
As soon as I saw it, I knew that this was something from another planet or something from out of this worldly space.
People need to know there is something else out there.
There are actual saucers and objects coming within our atmosphere and flying around, and people got pictures. Everybody cite the same thing in every city, the red and blue and green lights, but the authorities completely brush it off as if to say we are mentally off. But I know it's right because I've been seeing them.
Well, why don't they land then, Muhammad? I mean, if they're intelligent people, why wouldn't they land and step out and say, hi there? Or Galman Ding, whatever they say. You know, why wouldn't they make contact?
They probably figure they can't get no sense out of the people here in this country.
I would like to close by reading a very brief excerpt from the report of the Air Force's Scientific Advisory Board, which they made recently upon completing a detailed review of the subject of UFO. This is a statement. The committee concluded that in the 19 years since the first UFO was sighted, there has been no evidence that unidentified flying objects are a threat to our national security.
The war started when people accepted the idiotic principle that peace could be maintained by arranging to defend themselves with weapons they couldn't possibly use without committing suicide.
In Washington, ghost-like objects dart across the radar screen at the CAA Traffic Control Center at National Airport for several hours, traveling more than 100 miles an hour. Air Force jet fighters spend several hours chasing the objects plotted on the radar scope. General Sanford, Air Force Intelligence Director, confirms that the objects are not secret American weapons and reiterates the Air Force's obligation to investigate.
I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers. The Air Force interest in this problem has been due to our feeling of an obligation to identify and analyze to the best of our ability anything in the air that may have the possibility of threat or menace to the United States. In pursuit of this obligation, since 1947, we have received and analyzed between 1,000 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources. Of this great mass of reports, we have been able adequately to explain the great bulk of them, explain them to our own satisfaction. We've been able to explain them as hoaxes, as erroneously identified friendly aircraft, as meteorological or electronic phenomena, or as light aberrations. However, there have been a certain percentage of this volume of reports that have been made by credible observers of relatively incredible things. It is this group of observations that we now are attempting to resolve. Our basic difficulty in dealing with these is that there is no measurement of them that makes it possible for us to put them in any pattern that would be profitable for a deliberate, custom sort of analysis to take the next step. We have, as of date, come to only one firm conclusion with respect to this remaining percentage, and that is that it does not contain any pattern of purpose or of consistency that we can relate with to any conceivable threat to the United States. We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any department of the United States.
Major Keyhole, as author of the book Flying Saucers Are Real, what is your opinion of these new sightings of unidentified objects?
With all due respect to the Air Force, I believe that some of them will prove to be of interplanetary origin. During a 3-year investigation, I found that many pilots have described objects of substance and high speed. One case, pilots reported their plane was buffeted by an object which passed them at 500 miles an hour. Obviously, this was a solid object, and I believe it was from outer space.
The Air Force has officially analyzed the motives of possible visitors from space. Here is a direct quotation from the official report. Such a civilization might observe that on Earth we now have atomic bombs and are fast-developing rockets. In the past history of mankind, they should be alarmed. We should therefore expect at this time above all to behold such visitations.
Oh, yes, we discussed it at every conference that we had with the military. There's always things like that going on. Flying saucers, and we've had other things, you know, if I'm not mistaken.
Anti-aircraft guns went into action against unidentified aircraft in the Los Angeles area shortly after 3 a.m. Pacific wartime this morning. The anti-aircraft guns began barking during a blackout ordered by the 4th Interceptor Command at 2:25 a.m. The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach. Army officials declined to comment on the possibility that the object might have been a blimp. However, it required nearly 30 minutes to travel some 25 miles, far slower than an airplane. Watchers on the rooftop of the Columbia Broadcasting Building in the heart of Hollywood could plainly see the flashes of guns and searchlights sweeping the skies in a wide arc along the coastal area. Concussion of the shells could be felt in downtown Los Angeles, 15 miles away. U.S. Army planes quickly took to the dark skies, but whether they contacted the object has not been announced. Army officials say they will not comment until they receive a full report of the action. The object moved southward, presumably over Huntington Park at the western edge of Los Angeles, and on southward to about Long Beach on the coast. By 3:30 a.m., observers said the object appeared to be over the south of Long Beach. Searchlights closely followed the object down the coast and kept it centered in their glare. Shells frequently could be seen bursting near the object, but none appeared to hit it. The shooting stopped about 3:30 a.m. Approximately 20 minutes after the firing died down, the ship returned and headed westward from Long Beach toward Santa Monica. The guns went into action again, hurling round after round of shells at the object. The second barrage appeared to be closer to downtown Los Angeles, since watchers could hear the concussion of the guns more clearly, and the flash of bursting shells was brighter. Then the ship disappeared for the second time over the ocean. We return you now to CBS in New York.
A 1950s memo about space aliens and a UFO crash is the FBI's most searched for document online. CNN's Brian Todd quickly explains why it stirred up so much intrigue.
The memo's all of 2 paragraphs. Agent Guy Huddle, then head of the FBI's Washington field office, writes that an Air Force investigator stated that 3 so-called flying saucers had been recovered in New Mexico. They were described as being circular in shape with raised centers, approximately 50 feet in diameter. Not only that, each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape but only 3 feet tall, dressed in metallic cloth of a very fine texture. Each body was bandaged in a manner similar to the blackout suits used by speed flyers and test pilots. One reason the memo from Agent Hoddle went viral is because when the FBI vault was set up online 2 years ago, tabloids seized on that memo, saying it appeared to back up theories that aliens exist. Fox says out of all the strange cases he's come across,
the descriptions here of 50-foot diameter saucers and human shape, 3 foot tall, metallic clothed aliens, that's unique.
This is the old power generation building. They had 5 diesel generators in here. They would pump the kerosene, the diesel fuel in here through the pump station, the pump house right there. And this was backup. These radar units took a lot of electricity to run.
So this is a pretty powerful radar we're talking about.
Oh yeah. When the Air Force took it over, it became the TIA Amaria. And then later on in life, El Vado.
Huh.
You ready to go in there?
Sure, let's take a look.
You're not afraid of bats, are you?
Well, I don't want to get bitten by one. And some people speculate that the radar here was powerful enough to interfere somehow with an alien spacecraft.
That's a theory.
It might have brought it down. And they would have had similar radar stations, I assume, down by Roswell.
They had one in Corona, and if you read the historical reports we were going through last night, they also had one down at Walker, which was Roswell.
Right. Coincidence?
Yeah, maybe, huh?
Military interceptors are dispatched to escort the unidentified crafts out of the area. During a routine photographic mission, a tech sergeant and staff sergeant of the base photographic team were aboard a helicopter at the time and run off several feet of film of the 3 objects, one of which breaks away and begins a descent. A second high-speed camera crew on the ground runs off approximately 600 feet. The cameras continue to roll as the extraordinary vehicle comes into view.
With me is author and filmmaker Robert Emenegger and former security manager and chief of requirements for the audio-visual program at Norton Air Force Base, Paul Shartle. Gentlemen, Mr. Emenegger, how did you get involved with UFOs?
Well, it was in 1973 when I was vice president at Gray Advertising, and I took time out and went to Norton Air Force Base to explore subjects for television specials related to the Defense Department. While discussing several of the subjects, UFOs came up, and Paul here told us about a film of a landing of alien crafts at Holloman Air Force Base about 3 years earlier.
What did you see, Mr. Shartle?
I saw footage of 3 dish-shaped crafts. One of the craft landed and 2 of them went away.
Why did it land?
It appeared to be in trouble because it oscillated all the way down to the ground. However, it did land on 3 pods. A sliding door opened, a ramp was extended, and out came 3 aliens.
What did they look like?
Well, they were human-sized. They had odd gray complexion and a pronounced nose. They wore tight-fitting jumpsuits, thin headdresses that appeared to be communication devices, and in their hands, they held a translator, I was told. A Holloman base commander and other Air Force officers went out to meet them.
You actually saw these aliens on the film?
Yes.
This film footage sounded very, very special, and we wanted to use it as the ending of our television special.
And did you? Was it in your special?
Well, although the Pentagon had been very, very cooperative all the way, at the last minute, the film was confiscated, and we lost the whole finale of our show. But what I saw and heard was enough to convince me that, the phenomenon of UFOs is real, very real.
Mr. Shartle, what did your superior officers tell you?
I was told it was theatrical footage the Air Force has purchased to make a training film.
Well, that sounds plausible, doesn't it?
Well, if it were a theatrical film, why didn't I have a record of this? It was my job to keep accurate records of all audiovisual purchases.
Is there any other reason that you feel this was not a theatrical film?
Yes, it was too real. The people who were shooting that day were Air Force personnel. Lucky for us, the day they were shooting, they were doing an acceleration test.
It's too bad we couldn't get that footage from the Air Force. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us.
Then they put the documentary out, and then I find out that there's 8 seconds of the Holloman Air Force Base film in the film. So Bob's my friend. I phone up Bob. There's 8 seconds of film in there. And then he said the key words. He said, but it didn't show anything. What it is you see the hills of Holloman, and you see this object, this brilliantly lit object at 6 o'clock in the morning coming over the hills, but it's in a distance. So you don't see it close up, and you don't see the alien when the alien gets out. That's the classified part. So they want you to know that Holloman happened, and they allowed them to use the 8 seconds of the film, but the rest of the film, the classified part, was pulled.
It hovers, almost silently, about 10 feet off the ground for nearly a minute, and yaws like a ship at anchor, then sets down on 3 extension pads. The commander and 2 officers, along with 2 base Air Force scientists, arrive and wait apprehensively. A panel slides open on the side of the craft. Stepping forward, 1, then 2, and a 3rd, what appear to be men dressed in tight-fitting jumpsuits, perhaps short by our standards, with an odd blue-gray complexion, eyes set far apart, a large pronounced nose. They wear a headpiece that resembles a rope-like design. The commander and the 2 scientists step forward to greet the visitors. Arrangements are made by some sort of communication, and the group quickly retires to an inner office in the King 1 area. Left behind stand a stunned group of military personnel. Who the visitors are, where they're from, and what they want is unknown.
CBS reports UFO, friend, foe, or fantasy. Reported by CBS News correspondent Walter Cronkite.
The great flying saucer mystery of 1966 began here, near Dexter, Michigan, late in March. And before the month was out, flying saucers were being reported from New Jersey to California, from Colorado to Long Island, from Ohio to Georgia. Invariably, the first reports were brought in by quiet and sober citizens like Frank Manor, father of 10 children, a countryman, a hunting man, a man used to wooded swamplands by night.
Well, first beginning, we were watching television, and we have 6 dogs here, and they started raising a fuss, in which they never do much. So I went outside and gave a yell at them, and as I turned around to come back on the porch, I looked to the north of me, and looked like a fallen star radar. It was red and kind of coming down, and on about a 45, and so then I watched it, and I was going to see if it landed, and then maybe go down and see what it was. And when it got to the top of the trees, it stopped, and a blue and a white light come on it. And I looked at it, and I thought I was seeing things.
Frank Manor's UFO remained over his swamp more than 4 hours. His children saw it, his in-laws saw it, residents of the area saw it, the police saw it. No one photographed it, but Sergeant Newell Schneider of the Sheriff's Office remembered it well enough to draw it.
No, it moved very rapidly at any speed, or rather any direction it wanted to go. Why, it could change and go to the right or the left or go crossways without hesitating a bit.
What do you think it was?
Well, if they call it a flying saucer, that's what it is.
And I went up this
road about a half a mile, and then I stopped my car and I got out and looked out, and I could see a white looking object in the distance. I thought it was an overturned car at first, but I got into my patrol car and went up closer to it. And when I started to get out of the car, I heard a big roar.
When the speeding object came to a stop, Zamora claims that he saw two figures in white coveralls emerge from a strange white UFO. He moved in slowly.
I came up here on this road till I could find a flat spot where I could park my car. I got out of the car and glanced down to the arroyo there, and I saw this white-looking object. It was sort of a big egg shape, bigger than a car. Those are the exact bushes that were there, and the craft was sitting right in between them two. I thought I could see something around the craft there. I could see some figures looked like they were walking around the craft. I saw this flame come up from underneath it, and I ran back behind my car. And it went up to 20, 30 feet up in the air. So it just stayed there for a while, and then finally just took off slowly to the west.
I went down to where the object had been, and I noticed that brush was burning in several places. The object had left 4 perpendicular impressions on the ground. I noticed several bushes were smoldering, but they felt cold to the touch. I noticed what appeared to be a couple of oval footprints on the ground. I knew Lonnie had seen something. The proof was right there.
It is between the Los Alamos National Laboratory, the White Sands Missile Range. The Very Large Array radio telescope is 50 or 60 miles to the west. Socorro's right in the middle of this. If you've got a race of intelligent beings wanting to see what we're doing, this makes a perfect place for them to come to observe our steps into space and what our science is doing.
What was your immediate reaction as soon as you realized that this thing might be an object from outer space?
Well, I didn't think it would be an object from outer space because I don't believe in things like this from outer space.
Dr. Hynek saw this and it was very obvious to him that what Lonnie Zamora was saying in the depths of his honesty was not what the military was saying in their attempt to explain it.
Well, the pressure was mounting for an official explanation. There were more than 60 newsmen jammed in at that news conference. I gave what I thought to be at that time the only scientific explanation possible for the faint lights in the swampy area. I made the statement that it could be swamp gas, and even though I went on to emphasize that I couldn't prove it in a court of law, that was the full explanation for these sightings. Well, the press picked up the phrase swamp gas and rushed off to the telephones, and I was to come into a great deal of criticism over it.
Are you sorry now that you did tell people what you saw?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry because not that it's not the truth, but it's just the idea, the reaction of the people. They think you're a nut. Tell you the truth, that's just what they figure you are, and I'm not going to take it no more. I don't want nobody down in here. I just leave me alone. And if the thing lands right there by that pump, I'd never say a word. And he got out and talked to me. I wouldn't tell nobody.
They stopped me all over town and wanted to know this, wanted to know that, and then I got phone calls from all over the world, and I was getting, disgusted with it. If they want to believe me, good. If they don't want to believe me, it's all right too.
The phenomenon has not changed a great deal. It has not changed materially since 1947. And I'm quite sure that neither we nor the Russians had anything like the capabilities demonstrated by the UFOs in 47. I don't think we have now. So I've given up the whole idea that it could possibly be from any place on Earth.
In my association with Project Blue Book, I know very well that it was not a scientific project. Also, I also know that they never would notify the media when an interesting case came up. They did everything they could to keep it down. So they definitely withheld information.
You know, when I first interviewed Alan years ago, there was a theory going around that anybody who saw a flying saucer was probably befuddled by swamp gas somewhere in Louisiana and didn't know what he or she was seeing. We've had a lot of documentation since that time.
I think that one of the main things that has come out here that Peter has done is to substantiate the credibility of many of the civilians, because it was easy to, and still is, to discredit a civilian.
much more difficult to discredit a military man. In Blue Book, for instance, we would get reports from military pilots, and that was particularly embarrassing to the Air Force because after they had trained those men, and they couldn't very well, they could say that a civilian pilot might have been untrustworthy, but they could hardly say that to of their own military pilots, and we got case after case after case from military pilots which never hit the press.
As we proceeded to the west, the air controller was counting down the range to an object that we were going to, and we were unaware of what we were going to see when we arrived. The controller had told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space.
We're seeing 3 or 4 targets. You know, they're all altitudes up and down. It's pretty crazy.
A life flight pilot reported one of the lights was going in circles in a corkscrew pattern and showed up on his aircraft's collision avoidance system.
It's weird. It's a red circular shape, and it keeps zipping out towards the ocean and then coming back in about, 20 miles or closer to us, and then zips back out of the ocean and we can't see it.
Bigger than an aircraft carrier, Terauchi claimed when he drew this sketch showing the relative size of his jumbo jet. Terauchi's route was over Alaska to Anchorage. He says the UFO stayed with him 40 minutes and then disappeared. Today, the FAA released tapes of the crew's conversation with controllers.
Banner 1628, if you're able to identify the type of aircraft, we cannot identify the type. They're coming like a formation. It's quite a big.
Computer memory has recreated what radar picked up as the flight progressed. Sometimes the JAL plane is seen as a normal blip, but occasionally it appears as what some call a double blip, sometimes even 2 distinct blips. It caught controllers' attention that night.
Thanks to the contrast of the city lights, the crew could see the outline of the object. We couldn't believe our eyes. It was 30 to 40 times bigger than a Boeing 707. We tried to shake off this object, and I veered the 707 away. Towards 6 p.m., the object disappeared. The sighting lasted for an hour. These are the sketches by Captain Terauchi. Both he and his crew saw an enormous UFO. It was under control, and he felt there was every possibility that it hadn't been constructed on Earth.
In Lake City, we had him play back on a scope, you would call it a scope, a plan view display, PVD, exactly what the pilot seen or what the controller seen, and we tied it in with the voice tape so we could hear exactly what the controller said and what he heard, and we taped it. We came back the next day, briefed the administrator, Admiral Ingen, on what happened. He wanted a 5-minute briefing. After we started the briefing, he wanted to know if he could see the video. We put the video on. He watched the video, the whole video. The next day, he set up a meeting for me to give a dog and pony show to President Reagan's scientific staff and whoever they brought over, and to hand off all that data to them. They got all excited over it. When it was all done, the CIA, one of the CIA men told the people they were now sworn to secrecy that this meeting never happened and this event never happened. When I asked him why, I thought it was probably just a stealth bomber at the time. He says, well, this is the first time that we have recorded radar data on a UFO, and these guys are going to get all excited, drooling over all this data. I said, well, you're going to tell the public about it. And he says, no, we don't tell the public about this. It would panic the public. He says, we're going to go back and study this. I'm prepared to go to Congress, to swear before Congress that everything I've told you people and everything that is here is the truth. Thank you.
A UFO in China's skies forced Zhoushan Airport to stop operations on July 7th. Outbound flights were grounded after the unidentified flying object was detected by a flight crew. The incident has captured the attention of Chinese media, and theories about the UFO's identity are burning up on the internet as well. They include everything from a hidden U.S. bomber to an elaborate man-made hoax. For now, the UFO continues to be a mystery. A spokesman from China's Civil Aviation Administration confirmed to ABC News that the matter is under investigation.
There are 3 things about this whole thing, Tom, that no one can deny. They're incontrovertible points. Even the grossest skeptic can't deny them. First of all is that the UFO reports not only exist but persist. See, when I started with the Air Force, I thought that this was a fad. In a few years, it would just disappear.
Be all over, okay.
And it's global. We have reports now from 140 countries. I mean, practically as many countries as there are in the United Nations. And the most important of the 3 things is that many, unfortunately not all, but many of the reports come from highly, highly credible, technically trained people, you see.
Max Stanley, who had had a tremendous amount of previous
aircraft experience, was making a trip back from Albuquerque, and he and two very knowledgeable observers saw a UFO which could not be explained by any of the techniques that we knew then or know now. There is not only a source of power of which we're not acquainted, but there is also a source of propulsion which we're not acquainted, because the UFO seem to have unlimited power, which perhaps we might obtain if we develop fusion. Fusion power is more or less goes on forever. Fission that we're using now utilizes the elements to a certain extent, but fusion recreates the material that's used.
Now, the difference between a fusion reaction and a fission reaction is that in nuclear fission, you're splitting apart heavy uranium atoms. In fusion, the process that takes place in the Alcator, you're fusing together light hydrogen atoms. The advantage is no radioactive byproducts and a great deal of energy from some very simple materials. Hydrogen. There's enough of the right kind of hydrogen in 1 cubic meter of seawater to provide as much energy as 2,000 barrels of oil. We may be running out of oil, but we're not ever going to run out of seawater.
And perhaps a small fusion power plant would give you the power necessary. But the propulsion of these UFOs is unique. Their ability to hover, their ability to accelerate very rapidly, their ability to move at very high speeds, very much higher than anything that we have achieved even with our supersonic aircraft. All of these things, and particularly interestingly without sonic booms and the things that we don't like about our supersonic aircraft, all of these things indicate a type of propulsion which is unique, different than anything we know anything about, and which would be of tremendous value if we could develop it and use it. And that's the reason I feel, with a number of others who have studied it, that it is a subject which deserves the highest type of scientific study and at an early date. The advantages to be gained are perfectly enormous.
And how long do you feel it will be before we are flying in UFOs?
It can be anywhere from 10 years to 10,000 as far as I can see right now. But I do believe that it's something that is realistic, something that is tremendously valuable, something that we ought to study as soon and as rigorously as it can possibly be arranged for.
There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers. There are places to go beyond belief.
Paul Hill was a man years ahead of his time. Over the years, he conducted experiments with his own unconventional propulsion machines, seen here in these old films. His legacy? A remarkable manuscript, calm, rational scientific analysis of one of our greatest mysteries. A remarkable work has come to light written by the late Paul Hill. For years, Hill held a top job at the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which later became NASA. While there, he secretly compiled data in a private journal. It may be the most comprehensive document ever written about UFOs.
NASA's official policy was that UFOs did not exist, and my father just refused to go along with that.
Julie Hill is Paul Hill's daughter. She's responsible for unearthing the manuscript that her father secretly wrote during his years at NASA.
I knew when my father was alive that he was working on a manuscript about UFOs, and I got a bit curious. I thought it was something I didn't want to be lost. And so when I asked my mother where it was, she told me, and I went to his desk just to pick it up and look at it and maybe put it in a safer place. And when I opened it and looked at it, I was just astounded at what I saw.
Julie discovered a manuscript that presented clear and precise evidence about UFOs. Her father had meticulously gathered reports from numerous eyewitness testimonies. The report provided specific information about alien spacecraft, as well as physical details of the occupants.
He became sort of a clearinghouse. So when pilots had sightings or aircraft spotters had sightings, he would get those reports and he would interview the people to find out all the different facts pertaining to the sightings.
There are many astonishing revelations in the book. Other statements include detailed descriptions of the size and shape of UFOs. The fact that UFOs have no externally visible engines, power plants, or other means of propulsion, and that UFOs are highly radioactive. After poring through her father's manuscript, Julie knew that she was sitting on dynamite. She felt she had to make the manuscript public. And what is the official NASA response to Hill's book? We contacted Dennis Bushnell, NASA's chief scientist at Langley. His response? Paul had some interesting speculations in that saucer-shaped objects can fly in a conventional manner. Knowledgeable people are still speculating. These are still open issues. For Paul's daughter, Julie, some things are very clear.
When I think about my dad, I think he'd be thrilled that his book is in print, that finally some of his work will be out there for public consumption, that people will know how brilliant he was and how hard he worked to bring all this knowledge together.
One small step for man.
Later, he watched Neil Armstrong take the first steps on the moon, a moment in history he said still inspires him.
The approach wasn't lightning fast.
But on this canyon road just outside Las Vegas, Robert Bigelow's story takes a turn that some may find, to put it lightly, improbable. He told us this is where his grandparents had a close encounter with a UFO.
It really sped up and came right into their face and filled up the entire windshield of the car. And it took off at a right angle and shot off into the distance.
That story sparked his obsession and explains the alien looking out from the side of Bigelow Aerospace. It made for the kind of conversation you don't ordinarily have with an accomplished CEO.
Do you believe in aliens?
I'm absolutely convinced. That's all there is to it.
Do you also believe that UFOs have come to Earth?
There has been and is an existing presence, an ET presence. And I spent millions and millions. I probably spent more as an individual than anybody else in the United States has ever spent on this subject.
Is it risky for you to say, in public that you believe in UFOs and aliens?
I don't care.
You don't worry that some people will say, did you hear that guy? He sounds like he's crazy.
I don't care.
Why not?
It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to change reality of what I know.
Do you imagine that in our space travels we will encounter other forms of intelligent life?
You don't have to go anywhere.
You can find it here.
Yeah.
Where exactly?
It's just like right under people's noses. Oh my gosh. Wow.
The FAA confirmed to us that for years it referred reports of UFOs and other unexplained phenomena to a company Bigelow owns. He told us he's had his own close encounters, but declined to go into detail. Robert Bigelow's quirky, and he knows it. But when you have as much money as he does, no one, not even NASA, seems to care.
Fully believe that we're not alone, and have for many, many years, even though, but at the time I went to the moon, it was the conventional wisdom, both in science and theology, that we were alone in the universe. Because of my openness to these things, I did have many of the old-timers in the military and in the intelligence community over the years wanting to get it off their chest before they passed away. The President Truman at that time convened a very high-level committee to examine this alien or UFO phenomenon. They did come to the conclusion that it was alien, and the military rightly came to the conclusion, if they're hostile, there's nothing we can do about it. Therefore, their choice was to deny it and to hush it up. Eventually, it came away from the fear, I believe, of not being able to protect and do their duty to the notion of power and control, controlling the knowledge and the technology. And the group involved with that is still doing it. We have created our reality here, and we have created it right now rather badly, for it's not a sustainable reality. We have created, with our science and technology, instead of using it for the greater good, it's been captured by interest, greed, self-service, which is rife. And instead of using it, all of our technology and our brilliance and genius for greater good, we use it for self-service. And that's not going to work.
I am Bonner Cox, Executive Director of the Information Science and Engineering Division at Stanford Research Institute. Throughout mankind's history, there has existed a folklore that certain gifted individuals have been capable of producing physical effects by means of some agency, generally referred to as psychic or psychoenergetic.
With Uri Geller, this is Edgar Mitchell, who, with his eyes covered, is trying to pick up the number that Geller is sending. Also, we see Wilbur Franklin of Kent State, Harold Putoff, and Russell Targ of SRI, along with Don Schuick, Vice President for Research at SRI. Here in the laboratory notebook, on the left side of the page, you see the original targets, and on the right, Geller's responses. This is not a collection of correct answers out of a long series of correct and incorrect responses. This is actually the total run of pictures in a series. It is interesting that there is often a mirror symmetry. This is the drawing that Geller has made to correspond to the target object. The rectangle on the clipboard represents the TV screen in Geller's mind on which he claims to project the image he is trying to draw. As you can see, he is quite elated about getting the right answer.
Hi, my dear friends. So, this is Captain Edgar Mitchell, who was a very close friend of mine. This is the first day I met him, and he wants me to meet Dr. Werner von Braun, who told Mitchell that he wants to meet me.
To help show you what is being done to solve these problems, we have called upon one of the foremost exponents of space travel, Dr. Werner von Braun, who is at present the chief of the Guided Missile Division of the Army's Rocket Center at Redstone Arsenal. He was also overall director of the development of the original V-2 rocket.
Now here's a model of my design for a four-stage orbital rocket ship.
I say, what? Dr. Werner von Braun wants to meet me.
Grandfather of the space program in the U.S.
He was a Nazi.
Well, yeah.
I said, I'm Israeli. Half of my family were murdered by Nazis, but my curiosity killed me. I said, let's go. Werner pulls out a piece of metal and he says to me, Uri, touch this. Tell me what you feel. I put my fingers on it and I say, wow, it doesn't feel like it's from here. Then he says, come with me. He opens a safe. I see a piece of metal. I've never seen such a color. Pulls it out. It's not heavy. Says, Uri, touch this. Tell me what you feel now. I put my hand on it and I say, Werner, this is not from here. He says, you're right. This is a piece of a UFO that crashed on our planet. They are using, for espionage purposes, people who are intuitive. It's a cheap way of spying. They sit in a room with computers and they send their mind through space and time.
Are they still calling you? Are you still working with government officials?
No comment. Werner von Braun's office in a secret NASA base. He's showing me a tiny piece of metal that comes from a UFO. Then he takes me into his personal office, shows me a bigger piece of a crashed UFO. Then he leads me to his limousine. That's his driver, and we drive towards a concrete building. He takes me down 3 flights. He wants me to put on a warm Antarctica coat. He does the same with a NASA logo. And then we walk into a refrigerator room. Now, what I see in that room, I faint. Let me tell you this. Bibi knows about this. Okay. Obama knows about this. Donald Trump knows about it. I want you to look at this very carefully. Very carefully. Some people say, it's not real, it's a fake. I believe that it's absolutely real. I've seen them with my own eyes. That's as much as I can tell you. That's what I've seen in the refrigerator room. Some are bodies, maybe some are alive. We're communicating with them. Anyhow, they exist.
Today we're releasing the final report to address questions about alleged bodies associated with the Roswell story. Air Force activities which occurred over a period of many years have been consolidated and are now represented to have occurred in 2 or 3 days in July 1947. 2. Bodies observed in the New Mexico desert were probably test dummies that were carried aloft by U.S. Air Force high-altitude balloons for scientific research.
Can you help us with when the dummies were first used? What year?
53.
Colonel, how do you square the UFO enthusiasts saying that they're talking about 1947
Well, you're talking about dummies used in the 50s, almost a decade later.
Well, I'm afraid that's a problem that we have with time compression. I don't know what they saw in 47, but I'm quite sure it probably was Project Mogul. Over that period of time, dummies were dropped all around there. And I think it's logical to assume that the people there saw Air Force ambulances come out, they saw gurneys come out, they saw body bags come out because the dummies were put into body bags to protect them.
Were much smaller stature than full-size adult figures. How do you reconcile that?
I don't reconcile that. I just have no idea why they say that. You'll find there are a couple of things in which the dummy tests get lots of media attention. I have it tabbed and I should be able to find it, but quite frankly, I'm sitting here and my knees are shaking. Yes, ma'am.
Colonel, let me just clear up two things that you sort of brushed over quickly. Number one was the time frame that people are going to say, but this is 10 years. How could they possibly make a mistake on the 10 years? And number two, you said it was never classified, and yet why didn't people at the time say, well, my goodness, we were having dummy tests, this explains the answer?
Well, the dummy test, actually, you need to get the book.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a skiff about.
So that's the answer. These are another intelligence. They're ahead of us. They've proven it. And only one simple reason. They can fly in space and we can't. One night, I was a post-duty officer, and I went to the veterinarian section. A sergeant I knew very well was sergeant of the guard that night. I told him, Sarge, how's everything around here? And he said, fine, sir. I told him, they told me to be careful to watch this area because you have a sense of something sensitive here. He said, you want to see it, sir? I told him, yeah, let's go look. And I knew the sergeant, he was a master sergeant. I went back, and there was 5 crates there, like 5 or 6, I think it was 5. I lifted one up, and here's this body there and floating in fluid. And I looked at it about 10, 15 seconds, not much more than that. So I put it back down and said, Sarge, come on, get out of here now. I want to get you in trouble. And I started to figure, what was that? First, I thought it was a child, because it was small. Then I looked at its head and all, right away, and this was only happened in a matter of seconds. Then I put the end back down. The head was different, the arms were spindly, the body it was gray. So right at that moment, I figured, I don't know what this thing is. So like an intelligence business, I just better put it in the back of my head here and wait till maybe in the future I get corroboration so I can evaluate what it is. So I promptly forgot about it. Now, Walter Reed, there was a laboratory there, which was our laboratory, and we financed. That's who did the autopsies for us. So there I started getting indication, proof that a crash really happened here. I say it happened, and I add on to that. Give us information to the young people of the world in this country. They want to hear it. They want it. Give it to them. Don't hide it and tell lies and make stories. They're not stupid. They're not young men that'll panic. Average age of my soldiers was 19 and a half years old. I told my exec one day, my God, Maine, we're sending babies into battle. And these kids, they fought the greatest armies in the world. They didn't run. They didn't panic. They stood there and fought. Why do you think they'll panic? They wanted this information. They deserve it. It's their information. It doesn't belong to the Army or the Department of Defense. It's theirs. If it's classified, take the classification off and give it to them. Now, when this being comes in this world, he will wear a suit, skin-tight suit, which we found. His skin is atomically aligned, and his suit is atomically aligned. That's to repel radiation and harmful effects, even cosmic action. And most of the body was different, but no nose, no mouth, no ears, no vocal cords, no digestive system, no sex organs. So then we came to the conclusion that it was a humanoid clone. The message in my book that I like to see is that the younger generation look at this and see what we did and see the help we got from outer space, and these beings exist.
Are they multiple species? What was their size, and how many are usually on a craft?
They're typically the multiple species. People are familiar with the Greys, the Nordics. People are talking about reptilians and insectoids. It's not that they're reptilian or insectoid, it's that they resemble to the Percipian a reptile or an insect type, human of that nature.
Right here.
I think Neil Armstrong was there. I'm not 100% certain, but it was an amazing evening, and he just stood up and he looked around the room almost like he was doing a head count, and he said, "I want to thank you for bringing E.T. to the White House. We really enjoyed your movie." And then he looked around the room and he said, "And there are a number of people in this room who know that everything on that screen is absolutely true." And he said it without smiling. But he said that, and everybody laughed. By the way, the whole room laughed because he presented it like a joke, but he wasn't smiling as he said it.
A dear friend of mine was named Ben R. Rich. He replaced Kelly Johnson at the Lockheed Skunk Works. And about 10 days before he died, I was speaking to Ben. But he told me, he said, "Jim, we have things out in the desert that are 50 years beyond what you can comprehend."
If you've seen it on Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. So that's coming from Ben Rich. Ben Rich headed the Skunk Works between 1975 and 1991. This is the original letter from Ben Rich on Lockheed Advanced Aeronautics Company letterhead. "I am a believer, and so is Kelly Johnson." And here it says, "Dear Ben, there are two categories. A, man-made UFOs. B, extraterrestrial UFOs. Dear John, yes, I'm a believer in both categories. I feel everything is possible. Many of our man-made UFOs were unfunded opportunities. In both categories, there are lots of kooks and charlatans. Be cautious, Ben Rich."
I said, "Can you tell me anything about how this propulsion system works that goes to the stars?" He said, "Well, let me ask you a question. How does ESP work?" Pulled the first thing that came into my mind. I said, "I don't know. All points in space and time are connected?" He said, "That's how it works." Turned around and walked away.
I said, "Ben, you want to expand upon that?" He said, "No." And then he had the nerve to die on me 10 days later. So, wow. But his statement at UCLA, basically saying, we have the ability to take ET home, but our government won't allow that information to be made public. And that's infuriating.
My kids actually ask the same question. And whenever I go on to business trips, I come home, they ask me, how are the aliens? Did I see the aliens? Things like that. So, yeah, do the aliens exist? That's a question for another time.
Dr. Leon Festinger of the New School for Social Research consulted a number of prominent social psychologists from several universities across the United States.
You must realize that social scientists can only make educated guesses about reactions to such a new and startling event. But nevertheless, certain behavior can be predicted. Dr. Aronson of the University of Texas points out that many people already have strong beliefs about the existence or non-existence of extraterrestrial beings and are committed to these beliefs. Dr. Walser tells us that if these extraterrestrial beings were advanced beyond us, we would probably gain technological information from them, that many Americans may worry that their benefactor will demand something in return, constant gratitude or acknowledgement of their superiority. As far as panic is concerned, most of my associates agree that it wouldn't happen unless there were, one, in imminent danger with no escape or chance to protect oneself, and two, it resulted in loss of contact with family or primary groups. And last, there is also the question of longer-term effects. What would happen over many years? One social psychologist suggests that it might help to unite the world. If the visitors from space prove to be an enemy, he suggests, then we would unite as one species to drive the invader away and then to live in peace thereafter.
General Secretary Gorbachev, when you stop to think that we're all God's children wherever we may live in the world, I couldn't help but say to him, just think how easy his task and mine might be in these meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species from another planet. If we were facing an alien threat from outside this world, all of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space, from another planet. And we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings here on this earth together. Well, I don't suppose we can wait for some alien race to come down and threaten us. But I think that between us, we can bring about that realization.
The aliens won't let it happen. You reveal all their secrets. They exercise strict control over us.
When I was a corporate manager of Fairchild Industries in 1974 through 77, I met the late Dr. Werner von Braun in early 74. At that time, von Braun was dying of cancer, but he assured me that he would live a few more years in order to tell me about the game that was being played, that game being the effort to weaponize space, to control the Earth from space and space itself. Von Braun had a history of working with weapons systems and had escaped from Peenemünde to come to this country and landed as vice president of Fairchild Industries when I had met him. Von Braun's purpose in life during the last years of his life, his dying years, was to educate the public and decision makers about why space-based weapons are a dumb, dangerous, destabilizing, too costly, unnecessary, unworkable, undesirable idea. When Werner von Braun was dying of cancer, he asked me to be his spokesperson, to appear on occasions when he was too ill to speak. And I did. And what he asked me to do was to educate decision makers and the public about why we shouldn't be putting weapons in space. First, the Russians were the enemy against whom we're going to build space-based weapons. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. We heard a lot about terrorism. Then we were going to identify third world country crazies. We now call them nations of concern. But he said that would be the third enemy against whom we would be needing to build space-based weapons. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over, during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens. And all of it, he said, is a lie.
And that's the formula, except that it's all based on a lie. And we have witnesses here today that have shown you that these extraterrestrial beings, that these craft that have come here are now not UFOs, they're identified flying objects. And we know that they have beings in them. And we have witnesses here who have told you that they can shut down our missile silos. They can stop a rocket going into space that's a test.
For us and the American people to understand are the facts that haven't been said today. And the reason why they haven't been said is that they are largely classified. And the reason that's important is that the American people have no idea, really no idea, about the immensity of the threat in space. I wish the American people could be present in this room because our adversaries know what they are doing. We know what they are doing. They know we know what they are doing. But the American people have no idea.
We have an organization for the mutual protection of all planets and for the complete elimination of aggression. The universe grows smaller every day, and the threat of aggression by any group, anywhere, can no longer be tolerated. There must be security for all, or no one is secure. Now, this does not mean giving up any freedom, except the freedom to act irresponsibly. We created a race of robots. Their function is to patrol the planets in spaceships like this one and preserve the peace. Now, we do not pretend to have achieved perfection, but we do have a system, and it works. I came here to give you these facts. It is no concern of ours how you run your own planet. But if you threaten to extend your violence, this Earth of yours will be reduced to a burned-out cinder. Your choice is simple. Join us and live in peace, or pursue your present course and face obliteration. We shall be waiting for your answer. The decision rests with you.
Aliens exist, and President Trump knows about it. That's according to Israel's former space security chief. In an interview with an Israeli newspaper, he said the aliens have been waiting until today for humanity to develop and reach a stage where we will understand in general what space and spaceships are. NBC News chief global correspondent Bill Neely explains this one.
Hi, Alison. Well, this is quite a story, and it comes from the man who headed Israel's space security program for nearly 30 years. Chaim Eshed is making the extraordinary claim that the United States and Israel have been in contact with a group of aliens for years, not immigrants, but extraterrestrials. He has called them the Galactic Federation of Aliens, and he says President Trump is aware of the existence of these aliens and had been on the verge of revealing their secrets, he claims, but was asked not to do so by the Federation in order to prevent what he calls mass hysteria.
One of the things that
there's a lot of interest in the people coming from space, you know.
Yes.
And I know you're interested in that.
Oh, very interested in that. How much did they tell you about that?
A lot.
Really?
Yeah.
What did they tell you?
Well, the retired general says the US and Israel have kept it from the public because, quotes, humanity isn't ready and the aliens don't want to reveal themselves until humanity can evolve, he says, and understand what space really is. Well, the good news is that he claims an agreement has been reached between the US government and the aliens, a contract to do experiments here. There's also, he says, a secret underground base on Mars where there are American and alien representatives.
I get that question as much as almost any question. Do you think that we have aliens coming, you know, flying around or whatever?
What do you think?
There's no reason not to. I mean, there's no reason not to think that Mars and all these planets don't have life, you know, because
Mars, we've had probes there and rovers, and I don't think there's any life there.
Well, maybe it's life that we don't know about.
Now, this former head of a branch of Israel's defense ministry is 87. He was very well respected, at least until now. And he said all this in an interview with an Israeli newspaper in Hebrew, but it's really taken off after parts of it were published in English by the Jerusalem Post today. He says he's come forward now in the hope that his news will be accepted as true. He notes that if he'd made these claims 5 years ago, he would have been hospitalized, but now he says, I've got nothing to lose. Well, so far, President Trump has not tweeted about this, though remember a year ago he did set up the Space Force as the fifth branch of the US Armed Forces. Well, we did ask the White House, the Department of Defense and Israeli officials to comment. So far, they have not responded to the NBC News request, and I wonder if they ever will.
Like, what kind of secrets would you want to know? What would be in the Book of Secrets?
If aliens are real.
Ah.
Well, what do you think?
Well, after watching this TV show, I think aliens are probably real.
When I needed a neighbor, were you there? Were you there? When I needed a neighbor, were you there? And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there?
What the fuck? What the fuck?
Hungry and thirsty, were you there? Were you there? I was hungry and thirsty, were you there? And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there? Were you there? Did you get it? Yeah!
But what Michelle did not expect to see was a cylinder-shaped object zipping across her line of sight near LaGuardia Airport.
Pushed on the craft, which means focused on the craft. It got more clear and more clear and more clear, and when we centered on it, those are the shots that became famous.
You got some of that alien action everybody's been talking about on the news. Look at that right there. I was about to get me a McRib too. Wait, you think they want a McRib? Hey, y'all want a McRib?
Cuando alumbra, te des cuenta. Está posado en el cerro. Miren, ahí está, oye. ¿Viste? Está grabado, está grabado. Estamos, se notó el borde del cerro. Ahí está. Ahí está en el aire. Miren, mira eso.
And the creed and the color and the name won't matter. I'll be there. I'll be there.
We're back now talking about UFOs and alien abductions, and we welcome 3 of the top researchers in the field. Bud Hopkins, who's worked with over 400 people as a hypnotherapist to help people remember their abduction experiences. Also, Dr. David Jacobs, an associate professor of history at Temple University, and Dr. John Mack, a psychiatrist at Harvard Medical School, and we welcome you all to the program.